The train hissed like a tired animal as it slowed to a stop, steam curling into the pale morning sky. She stepped down onto the wooden platform clutching a small, worn suitcase, the only thing in the world that still belonged to her. Inside were 2 dresses, a pair of gloves with a missing button, and a folded letter that promised a future that now seemed like a cruel joke. This was supposed to be the beginning of her new life. The letter had been clear. A respectable rancher. A proper home. Marriage within the week. Safety. She had crossed half a continent believing every word, believing that somewhere in this dry, unfamiliar town a man was waiting for her with her name on his lips. Instead, there was only silence. People moved around her, meeting loved ones, embracing, laughing. A young couple hurried past, their happiness sharp enough to sting. She stood still, scanning every face, tall men, short men, bearded men, men with hats pulled low, but none of them looked for her. No one held a sign. No one asked her name. Minutes stretched into an hour. The station master glanced at her twice, his curiosity slowly turning into suspicion. 2 women on a nearby bench whispered behind gloved hands, their eyes flicking toward her suitcase. She could almost hear their thoughts. Mail order bride. Left behind. Poor thing, or foolish one. Her cheeks burned with shame. She sat on the bench and smoothed her dress, forcing herself to breathe. Perhaps he was late. Perhaps his horse had thrown a shoe. Perhaps, she clutched at hope the way a drowning woman clutches air. But deep inside, a heavier truth settled. Men who intended to come always came. By afternoon, the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the platform. The crowd thinned. Trains came and went. With each departure, her heart sank a little more. When the station master finally approached and asked if she was waiting for someone, she nodded, unable to trust her voice. He hesitated, then said gently, "Last train for the day leaves in an hour, miss." An hour. After that, there would be nothing but darkness. She had no money for a hotel, no family to write to, and nowhere to return. Going back would mean admitting failure, to herself most of all. She thought of the long journey here, the nights spent believing she was heading toward love or at least belonging. The weight of it pressed on her chest until breathing hurt. As twilight crept in, for a long moment, the woman could only stare at the little girl. The words "you need a home," and "I need a mommy" echoed in her mind, too heavy to belong to someone so small. She knelt so they were face to face, studying the child's solemn eyes, searching for mischief or confusion. She found neither. "I'm not a mommy," the woman said gently. "I was supposed to be someone's wife." The girl nodded, accepting this as fact. "Then you can be both," she replied, as though life were that simple. The woman almost laughed, but the sound caught in her throat. "What's your name?" she asked instead. "Lily," the girl said. "My mama named me. Papa doesn't say her name much anymore, it makes him sad." The bride felt a familiar ache. Grief, she realized, shaped families just as surely as love did. "Where's your papa now?" she asked. "At the ranch. He'll be fixing the fence till it's dark." Lily glanced toward the fading light beyond the station. "He works so he doesn't think." That quiet honesty struck the woman deeper than any plea could have. Lily wasn't asking for comfort just for herself, she was asking for someone to save her father from his loneliness, the way she couldn't. "I don't think your papa is looking for a bride," the woman said softly. "He didn't order you," Lily admitted. "But God sends people anyway. Mama said that before she got sick." The words lingered between them, fragile and impossible to ignore. The woman thought of the letter folded in her pocket, of promises made by a man who never came. Maybe she had arrived here by mistake, or maybe not. "I don't have money," the woman said quietly. "Or a place to stay." Lily reached out and took her hand, small fingers warm and determined. "We have soup," she said. "And a bed. Papa will grumble, but he won't turn you away. He never does." The woman hesitated, fear battling hope in her chest. Following a child into the unknown went against every warning she'd ever been taught. Yet staying meant another night of cold benches and pitying stares. "Just for one night," she said at last. Lily smiled, not a wide, childish grin, but a calm, knowing one. "That's how it starts," she said. And together, as the last train pulled away, they left the station behind, 2 lost souls walking toward a home neither had expected to find. The ranch sat at the edge of the prairie, where the land thinned into dust and sky. By the time they reached it, the sun had slipped below the horizon, leaving only a bruised purple glow behind the hills. The woman's legs ached from the walk, but Lily moved with practiced ease, as if the path itself belonged to her. A lantern burned near the barn. Beside it stood a man repairing a broken fence rail, his movements slow and deliberate. He was broad-shouldered, his coat worn thin at the elbows, his face shadowed by weeks, maybe years, of exhaustion. When he looked up and saw them, his body stiffened. "Lily," he said sharply. "Where have you been?" The girl ran to him, wrapping her arms around his leg. "I brought someone," she said proudly. The man's gaze shifted to the woman. It hardened instantly. He straightened, setting the hammer down with care, as if controlling his temper required effort. "Who are you?" he asked. The woman swallowed. "My name is Clara," she said. "I was left at the station. Your daughter found me." "I told you not to wander into town alone," he said to Lily, though his eyes never left Clara. Fear hid beneath his anger, the fear of losing the one thing he had left. "She didn't wonder," Clara said quickly. "She helped me." That only deepened his frown. "We don't take in strangers," he replied. "Especially not women with nowhere to go. It brings trouble." Lily stepped between them. "She's staying," she said firmly. "Just one night." The man exhaled slowly, rubbing a hand over his face. He looked older up close, grief etched into the lines around his eyes. "We don't have room," he muttered. "We have Mama's bed," Lily said. The words landed like a blow. The man closed his eyes briefly, pain flashing across his face. When he opened them again, something in him had shifted, not softened, but cracked. "One night," he said at last. "Then she leaves." Inside the house, the air was cold and quiet. A woman's presence lingered in the details, a neatly folded quilt, a cracked teacup set carefully aside. Clara understood instantly, this home had stopped moving forward the day its mistress died. As she set her suitcase down, Clara realized this man wasn't cruel. He was broken. And somehow, she sensed that Lily had brought her here not by chance, but because this family was as lost as she was. Morning came softly to the ranch, the pale light slipping through the thin curtains as if unsure it was welcome. Clara woke before the others, disoriented for a moment, then remembering where she was. The bed she slept in was neatly made but untouched, as though no one had truly rested there in a long time. She rose quietly, not wanting to overstep her welcome, and slipped into the kitchen. The house felt hollow, but not empty. Every object seemed to carry a memory, the chipped bowl on the shelf, the faded apron hanging behind the door. Clara set water to boil and began making porridge, guided by habit more than intention. She told herself she was only being polite, only earning her keep for the single night she'd been allowed. When Lily appeared, hair rumpled and eyes bright, she smiled as though this were the most natural thing in the world. "Pop likes his food hot," she whispered, as if sharing a secret. The rancher, Ethan, entered last. He paused in the doorway, clearly startled by the smell of breakfast and the quiet hum of life in his kitchen. "You didn't have to do that," he said gruffly. "I know," Clara replied gently. "I wanted to." He said nothing more, but he sat down and ate every bite. One night became two. Then three. Clara helped Lily with her lessons, mended torn clothes, and brought warmth into rooms that had been shut tight by grief. She never asked for anything, never spoke of the future. That, more than anything, disarmed Ethan. He began to notice small changes, the way Lily laughed more easily, the way the house no longer echoed, the way he himself slept deeper than he had in years. Still, Clara remained careful. She slept lightly, kept her suitcase unpacked, and reminded herself daily that she was not chosen, only allowed. One evening, as rain drummed against the roof, Ethan finally spoke. He told her about his wife, about the illness that took her and the promise he'd made to never let another woman suffer because of him. Clara listened without judgment, her silence offering more comfort than words. When she went to bed that night, Clara knew the truth, she had already begun to belong here. And that frightened her more than being alone ever had. The morning Clara decided to leave, the ranch was quiet in a way it hadn't been for days. The sky hung low and gray, and a cold wind moved across the fields as if urging her on. Her suitcase sat by the door, just as it had the day she arrived, proof that she had never truly unpacked her heart. She had told herself this was the right thing to do. Ethan had given her shelter, not promises. Lily had given her affection, not permission to stay forever. And Clara had learned, painfully, what happened when she believed in futures that weren't spoken aloud. Lily noticed first. She stood in the doorway, clutching her doll, her small face tight with fear. "You're going away," she said, not a question, but a realization. Clara knelt and took her hands. "I don't belong here, sweetheart. You and your papa need certainty. I can't be something I was never meant to be." Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. Instead, she ran, straight into her father's arms. Ethan looked from his daughter to the suitcase and finally to Clara. The truth settled on him all at once, the warmth in his home, the light in his child's eyes, the quiet healing in his own heart, they all traced back to the woman standing at his door. "I never ordered a bride," he said slowly. "I didn't believe in buying a wife." Clara nodded. "Neither did I, but I believe in choosing one," he continued, his voice rough with emotion. "And I believe my daughter chose you before I was brave enough to." Lily hugged Clara tightly. "I told you God sends people," she whispered. Ethan stepped forward. "Stay," he said. "Not because you have nowhere else to go, but because we want you here. Because this home is better with you in it." Tears spilled freely now as Clara realized the difference. She hadn't been claimed by a contract or rescued out of pity. She was being chosen, freely, honestly, and with love. She set the suitcase down. Outside, the wind softened, the clouds began to lift, and inside that once broken house, a family, formed not by purchase, but by faith, finally came home.